Have you heard of the highway where women go missing?
I'm Jupe. This is Hempy. Let's talk about the Highway of Tears on this Freaky Friday.
All right, man. So this one, as with our other Freaky Friday videos, uh, you know, this one's not as disturbing as the stuff we've talked about in the past, but it's not exactly a happy subject. Um, so, uh, the Highway of Tears. Have you ever heard of it before?
I've never heard about it.
Okay. So the Highway of Tears is in British Columbia. It's between the towns of Prince George and Prince Rupert. Um, and it's a 724 kilometer, which is about 450-mile road. Okay. So on this stretch of road, there have been like 40 women who have been abducted since 1970.
Oh
Uh,
damn.
and most of that 40 have been are of indigenous descent or background. So like the
Yeah.
native people of that area. Um, so we'll be using the terms like I'll be using the term native, indigenous, and aboriginal like interchangeably. Um, and so what happened? That's kind of the thing that I watched. Kind of started out saying that in 2013, the Human Rights Watch released a report saying that the Royal Canadian Mounted Police, so that's going to be RCMP, so that's like the Mounties, the guys you might see with the red jackets, little hats, and stuff in the
Yeah.
movies, um, that they failed to protect and investigate missing Aboriginal women. Um, this particular segment of women within Canada are like 3.5 times more likely to sustain some sort of like domestic violence or physical abuse or something like that. So it's shocking how big of a disparity there is against this small subset of people. How much more likely they are to be abused. Um, so throughout Canada since 1970, there's been uh, through all of Canada about 600 women who have gone missing. But again, this Highway of Tears, uh, uh, it's a play on. Have you ever heard of the Trail of Tears?
I've heard of the Trail of Tears. Yeah.
Yeah, that's where they marched, forcefully marched people from the Native Americans from their home in like southeast United States to the reservations of like Oklahoma and stuff, and like people just died on the way, and
Yeah.
it's a very uh, dark part of American history. So this is kind of a play on that. So rather than being a stretch of the United States, is a stretch of freeway that just has just a lot of uh, crime that has happened against Native women. Um, but it's not just like there's one killer. It's a system in place that is kind of allowed for um, multiple multiple serial killers to be active in this area. And it has to do, unfortunately, with the fact that Native American women, or Native women, Indigenous women, because not just America, but maybe like North America women, are just more susceptible um, to crime and to abuse. And um, so, like, I'll get into some of the numbers here. Um, what do you think in this area? Some of the areas. What do you think the unemployment rate is? If you had to guess.
I mean, if it's high, maybe 20, 30%.
92.
Damn.
So
92%. So
yeah,
nobody's working out there. Goddamn.
yeah. I think it's just a lot of homesteaders, people just kind of going by, maybe bartering, relying on deer or game for their food source, or running a small
Yeah.
garden, or trading labor for goods and stuff. In this area, there's also just a lack of transportation and like legit infrastructure. So it's not even like these people could get around if they just had bicycles or mopeds. Like one guy said, for every kilometer of paved roads, he would estimate there's probably about 1,000 kilometers of gravel
Damn.
roads.
Goddamn.
So think about that. If you were an attacker operating in this area, and Okay, one, there's these people who are just highly susceptible, right? We'll get into the reasons why they're underreported, but also there's all these little hidden logger roads or different just wilderness road, mountain roads that you could go and like hide a body where no one's gonna know. Like,
Yeah.
and again, this started in like 1970. It's progressed. The data's relatively current. Um, so you have to think about like GPS, like somebody having a GPS device, cell phone mainly, like
Yeah.
relatively new, like in the grand scheme of it, like
Yeah. Yeah.
um, and think about it, if you're in a place to where you don't have a job, are you really gonna have a cell phone like to track you with? Like,
Well, not only that, but who's gonna be asking for you besides your family? Like nobody's
nah.
really gonna know about your existence.
So, and that's the thing. It's a common thing amongst these predators, right? They go. I mean, if you look at just nature in general, they always say like the predator goes after like the weakest one in the herd.
Yeah.
Maybe not from a physical standpoint that they're weak, but these women are viewed as weaker because they don't have maybe the same protection that other people in society benefit from,
Yeah.
right? So people who are drug addicts or prostitutes or just homeless, like they're viewed as somebody who's weaker because guess what? They're not. If they go missing, they don't have that 9 to 5 job where someone's gonna be like, "Oh, hey, Susan hasn't done her paperwork. Where's Susan? Who's? Does anybody know what happened to Susan?" You
Well,
know?
not only that, but if they're drug addicts or if they're homeless, like, oh, he probably froze to death or something somewhere under a bridge, or probably OD'd somewhere.
Yeah.
It's difficult to keep track of them.
Now this folds in another thing of just racism, right?
Yeah.
Like, so and this was kind of showcasing that there is this girl named Nicole. I'm gonna struggle with the last name here. It's almost like Boer, but with an H in front. How would you pronounce?
Bore. I wouldn't pronounce the H.
No, 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 no. It's Hoar. How would you say that?
Or
Yeah, we'll go with
I
that.
wouldn't pronounce the H.
Yeah, Nicole H. Um, Now she went missing, and it became like quite the story.
Yeah.
What do you think was different about Nicole?
Probably knew somebody that was pretty high up there.
She was white. She
Oh, she was white.
she had this.
Shit.
She was the smiling white face on the missing poster, not the natives where they showed them like some of them were smiling, but like maybe they were some were stern or they were
Yeah.
so and so, who was last seen living homeless in this area, or like there's always some other
Yeah.
tag. But the fact that she was a white person, um, and this isn't just me making that assumption. Her dad, Jack H, admitted that when they had this like symposium for all the women who had gone missing on this road, he sat there and he heard all these like First Nations people talk about their sister, their daughter, their wife, or whoever going missing. Like we went and the Royal Canadian Mounted Police, the RCMP, they did nothing. They didn't do anything for her. They didn't do a search. They were unhelpful. He heard family after family after family go and say these people did not help him, and he had to go up there and he's like after he saw on an interview they're talking to him. He's like, I realized my story was different. I felt totally helped and supported by them.
Yeah.
And like, what was the difference? I'm white. They were natives. They come from a native
Yeah.
background. So uh, this is something I think that's more felt in areas like New Mexico, to where there is a higher native population, and I think you guys might have learned more about natives. Like for me, we growing up in California, it was just kind of the broader strokes. We didn't see the negative aspects of what happened to the Native Americans after, uh, I guess, the conflicts or taking the lands from them. Like we didn't see the backlash of that.
Yeah.
But have you ever heard of like so? I doubt you've heard of, but the Canadian residential school system.
No.
So I think they had these in within the United States, but it was to quote unquote kill the Indian in the child.
Oh
So
shit.
let's get this.
Basically, force their culture out of them.
Yeah, yeah. So to make them match or fit like the European model and of dress and culture. So it was a bit of like of a cultural holocaust. They were trying to kill the native spirit, the native way of being, and the way they would do this, they would take a very young child, 3 or 4 years of age, strip them from the parents. If the parents had any access, it was highly limited, and they would live until like they're 15 away from their parents, um,
Oh
learning
shit!
Christian and like values. And I think the Catholic Church played a role, sending nuns and priests to go work at these places to spread their faith, um, and all this started in like the 1870. So what's that? Approximately Civil War
Right around there, yeah.
era, right? So yeah, so they removed and isolated the child from their family and the traditions. So it's not even like, oh, hey, send them to this boarding school where we'll still let them celebrate themselves. But like these were in practice for about 100. I think I have a number of here that are noted of 160 years. Like it was like the when the last one shut down.
Damn.
Now I don't think they were at that point at the end of it as bad as what they were initially,
Yeah.
but it was like sending kids to prison, you know. But again, isolating them away and bringing them in when they're young enough to where they didn't have strong, they didn't have that sense of
Ties.
self yet. Yeah.
Yeah, strong ties to their culture. Yeah, that's terrible.
So what do you think this did between the community, like the native community, and like the Royal Mountain? Because like they like again, these kids sometimes were forcibly removed. Their parents weren't
Yeah.
willfully sending their kids. What do you think this did to the community between like the government and law enforcement versus the native community?
It'll always cause a clash when they do that type of stuff.
Yeah, so like a lack of trust with authority figures was well
Yeah.
established. So besides the fact that there's like a racist side, there's one side not wanting to communicate with the other because there's just they grew up not trusting any law enforcement
Yeah.
and stuff. Um, and it gets worse because it was like part of the infrastructure. There's a the David Ramsey's case, which isn't that also the name of like that investor guy?
David Ramsey sounds familiar. Yeah.
I think that's the guy like people call in. I have $100,000 in debt. I think that's the guy. But it's not this guy. I think it's just the same name. But there was this guy David Ramsey was a sitting judge, so he was should have been in great standing with the community. He was exploiting girls, as they put it, some at as young as 12 years
Damn.
old. So this guy who was supposed to be there and be someone who brought justice to the area was in fact an
Now, what
abuser
years was
himself.
this that he was
Uh,
around?
I forget. I didn't know what year he was actively doing this or for how long. But they did say like some of his victims were 12 years
Damn.
old. Um, for his crimes, he only received 7 years of prison.
Oh my god.
Um, now he did die during like the 3 or 4. I think he only served like 4 to 5 years,
Yeah.
and during that time he died of cancer. Um, but you wonder like how can these women go missing without somebody caring about them? Because again, when that white woman went missing, Nicole H, it was a huge thing. But like when these natives are missing, or these people from uh, high risk victims, uh, why wasn't there uproar of them? So there's this guy named in 2007 he was caught, Robert William Picton. He operated on a pig farm. Um, when he was caught, he had bragged about that he had as many as 49 victims.
Damn.
Originally count on he they brought him in on 2 counts of murder. Upon processing his I guess his kill area, they found DNA of up to 33 persons.
Damn.
And again, how can so many people go missing from an area, nobody noticing?
And so most of his victims were in that highway of tears.
Yeah, like so these people were from the downtown area of or downtown east side of Vancouver, so around that area.
Okay.
Um, Now, the Highway of Tears more specifically talks about like how the native women amongst this area who are like mostly hitchhiking, but this kind of talks about the systemic problem in that general area
Yeah.
that people who weren't relegated or valued by maybe the law enforcement uh, uh, weren't fully investigated when they went missing.
Yeah.
So maybe after one or two kills, the murderer being found, they're able to successfully do it for multiple people over years. Um, so that was a big thing. There was a huge public outcry, and they actually did like a commission to figure out like why was this guy able to be so successful without it raising alarms? And not like there was like, hey, women, be careful. There's a killer out and about. And
Yeah.
like he was still picking them off. Like he was able to operate totally under the radar.
Dude, that's just wild.
Yeah. Um, and so they said that the Royal Canadian Mounted Police were not conducting investigations properly. Um,
Yeah.
take a guess on the investigations and the trial, the cost of this Robert William Picton. Guess how much it cost the government?
Um, I don't have a pulse on it. Maybe a couple million,
Uh, put a number on that.
2 million.
Now times that by 50.
Holy shit, $100
Yeah.
million.
Opening weekend of Taylor Swift's concert. Yeah, $100 million.
Yeah, that's
uh,
true.
um, so think about it. The fact that a lot of these women are lack of infrastructure, support, economic opportunity, and
Yeah.
to process one of the killers of said women cost $100 million.
Yeah.
Like you just that's kind of like how can the government willfully spend $100 million but not put the things in place to protect or help develop programming for these women
Yeah.
of high risk.
Yeah. That's wild. It's a lot of money for one
Yeah.
person.
So there's kind of a notion that like these missing women are significant until they were in fact murdered.
Yeah.
Only once they could prove that they were murdered did it become a thing. Like that's when
Yeah.
like
That's like when people go missing. It's like, oh, you can't report it till it's been more than 24 hours. Something like, yeah, but I know he's missing or something.
or the ones that are like scaring me. Or it's like, oh, hey, this girl wants to get a restraining order on this guy, but has he done anything to you? Like, no, but he's threatened this. I've seen him outside,
Yeah.
but has he done anything to you? And it's like,
Yeah.
but no, but I'm afraid he's gonna. But it's like, but until he does,
Yeah.
there's no legal recourse. Um, so in 2006, so this is kind of going before, because again, I said that Robert William Pickham, like he wasn't caught processed until 2007. So, but in 2006, the Highway of Tears was like people realized all these women went missing in the 80s, 90s, 70s. Um, they had a symposium to bring public awareness to this. This is where that guy Jack H realized that his family story when his daughter went missing was wildly different than the natives of the
Yeah.
area. And they came out with a couple things that they wanted, like have a shuttle bus service to help the women get along this path from city to city, like so they don't have to hitchhike. Let's give them in a nice safety,
Yeah.
like a safe mode of transportation. Let's provide better healthcare, social care, not just more types, but in more areas.
Yeah.
And they said, we actually want the Royal Canadian Mounted Police to actually investigate our missing people,
Yeah.
like treat them as people that are missing, not just
Yeah.
what happened to them. So, of all that, they did develop this thing called EPANA, which by 2007 had grown to have 18 investigators, 13 of which would focus on homicide from like a homicide perspective, and 5 would look into like active missing persons. Now, one person said that they were told like there's virtually no money to put like all your recommendations in place.
Yeah.
Now, flash forward a year, they spend it over $100 million
Shit.
to like
Yeah.
like so you're saying we don't have it until it's a legal thing, and then we have to pay the lawyers and the
Yeah.
judges, and it's like um so again this isn't even counting like again all these women, up to 40 women have gone missing on this stretch of
That they
road.
know of.
um yeah, that are known, that are documented,
Yeah.
that not to that's the people who live in that area, not maybe even the passer throughs
Yeah.
or you know um and you just got to think about like the hurt a family has when they lose someone.
Yeah,
right?
it's I forget the word, but that lack of
Closure.
ability to do something. Closure
Yeah.
is it's
So like
rough.
one family, again, living in an area that was probably that wasn't of the highest economic means. Her name is Madison Scott. Her family initially raised like $15,000. Like if anything, leads to her discovery, not even like
Yeah,
her safety, like just where is she? Like they just want to be able to
yeah,
put some again get their. So as I was saying, yeah, her family managed to raise like 15K initially. Like we just went home,
yeah.
right? Like what can we do to just to bring her body home so we could bury her? It worked. They at some point it got over $100,000. They were willing to dish out again
Damn.
just for somebody to say, "Hey, I think I saw something over here," or "I heard about a guy who said he dumped his body over there," which is wild. Like I
Yeah,
would think if if I was in one of those situations where like I had a tip that do it, like I would feel so bad taking that money.
yeah. I was gonna say just to give out information to a family who's lost a loved one, and then in exchange you get $100,000. Like, nah, just use that for whatever you need or whatever
Yeah,
it
like
is.
like and again, maybe if like I did something or I went out of my way to get a tip to that led to her like healthy discovery.
Dude, if you solve the case, all
Yeah.
right. Yeah, if you solve the case, all right. But if you just gave them
Yeah, it's like, oh
information,
hey, I thought I saw
nah.
something over on my Jeep. I was on a hike and there was something down there. It didn't look
Yeah,
like a deer or anything. Like, um,
yeah.
then like they're like, oh hey, that was the body. And then like you call back the next day, be like, oh hey, about the 100K.
Where's
Like,
my money?
yeah. Um, so it's kind of made this thing worse in that area. Greyhound cut a lot of the routes into the rural communities.
God damn.
So this is in 2013. So again, things are probably better now, but like this is going to lead to a spike in hitchhiking on this road. Like
Oh
there's
yeah.
these huge billboards: "Do not hitchhike." There are killers active in the area.
Dude, that's
Because
rough.
again, and there's like they talked about like one guy who again like somebody hitchhiking. Hey, you want to ride? Yeah, jump in, and then like he would take him down one of those logging roads, do whatever, then hook him to his truck and
Yeah.
like drag him. It's like to make their body obscure, like just dump them. And again, these are remote areas. People aren't going to be traveling down the road. Um, and like, did you ever watch Yellowstone?
No.
Spoiler. In one of the seasons, they're trying to find somebody who's in that they're targeting Native American women, like or on the reservation. And this guy had this spot where he was able to figure out it was a dead zone for phones, and he would take women there, like um, after they have the little showdown, like there's people who are going like on a body search, like they like blow the whistle whenever you find a body, and then like an investigator or a cop will go there to start processing the scene. And like in the minute or two that they like, you hear like five whistles go off in the background. So this guy was just super
Oh
active in one of
shit.
these remote areas where you're gonna somebody's car breaks down. So that's
Yeah.
not even like women just like, oh hey, I'm gonna try to backpack from here to there, or flat tire, where do you go? Which I was thinking about
Yeah.
that. Like, have you? I'm sure you've seen those like puncture-proof tires or the non-pneumatic tires. Like, they have a sound thing, but it's like
Yeah.
maybe in rural areas, like that could
Yeah.
be a thing.
Well, it wouldn't be a bad idea.
Like if
Yeah.
it's
They're expensive though. That's the thing.
yeah, but you only need to buy them once, probably for a while. I don't know. Yeah.
Maybe. I don't know about
um,
that one.
but yeah, but in 2014, the Royal Canadian Police released that between the years of 1980 and 2012, over 1,017 Indigenous women and girls have been murdered.
Damn. 1,000 women.
And that's four times higher than any other Canadian group
Yeah,
of
that's
women.
wild.
So imagine that one demographic, just because you're in an area and like, again, it's a systemic thing. There's racism, there's social economic issues that confine their access, the lack of jobs, lack of resources.
Yeah.
They're looking just to escape their area, and it's made like a hunting ground for again. And it's not just one prolific. serial killer. It was multiple killers being active in the area.
Yeah, and then that's the problem is that there's so many people out there that are doing that and have those bad intents.
Yeah. So uh, the area where I saw this thing at length was on the YouTube channel Real Crime. Go check it out. Real Crime, looking for the Highway of Tears. You'll be able to find more on this. Um, and that's what we got on you for this Freaky Friday. If you enjoy, if you found this to be intriguing, would like to hear more stories like this, hit like, hit subscribe, drop us a comment. Maybe there's a story or case you would like us to look into, or maybe one that you think that's us worth sharing.
Yeah, and again, hit that like, hit that subscribe, follow us on social media. You can also send us messages there if you're interested in a certain topic that you want us to cover. And have a good weekend, everybody. Take care.